Yo, this documentary is a masterclass. 100%. As an actor with dreams of leading roles and telling powerful stories, number one on the call sheet on Apple TV Plus is definitely a breath of fresh air. Produced by Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, Datari Turner, Dan Cogan, and directed by Reginald Hudlin, this documentary is a masterclass that every actor, especially black actors who are navigating the industry, should sit with and take notes on. Hearing the legends speak truth to power and sharing their journeys and talking about what it means to be number one is both inspiring and affirming. They make it clear that it's not just about Hollywood, but it's about legacy, resilience, and representation. You're tuned in with Chosen One Cinema, and I'm gonna learn your ass today. Let's go.
Let's be cold, cinema, elevate the culture.
So what is it when you're number one on the call sheet? It's that magic moment for most actors. When you see a name on the call sheet for the cast, it's a moment of accomplishment and pride, as Idris Elba explained. So let's highlight some of the legends and the wisdom shared that everybody should take away from this film. So several of the actors began paying homage to Sidney Poitier. Now, who is Sidney Poitier? Without Sidney Poitier, Bernie Mac ain't smacking nobody on TV.
I'm from the Athlete's Foot Foundation.
That's right. Sidney Poitier was the first black man to smack a white man on TV. He broke racial barriers in the 1967 film In the Heat of the Night when he told the network to write it into the contract that the studio agrees that the film will be shown nowhere in the world of him taking a slap from a white man without slapping his ass back.
I said, if he slaps me, I'm going to slap him back. You will put on paper that the studio agrees that the film will be shown nowhere in the world with me standing there taking the slap.
And the FCC ain't do a damn thing about it. Now, Denzel Washington, Academy Award winning actor, director, and producer, widely regarded as America's most respected and sought after actor in our time, who is number one on my Mount Rushmore of actors, said during his speech at the Oscars when he won Best Actor for Training Day in 2002.
I'll always be chasing you, Sidney. I'll always be following in your footsteps. There's nothing I would rather do, sir. Nothing I would rather do. God bless you.
So Sidney Poitier was the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor in a leading role in 1964 for his role in Lilies of the Field. Jamie Foxx added, how amazing to crack that code in a time when we couldn't even sit at certain places in restaurants. Before Poitier, we only had Mother Hattie McDaniel, who was the first black actor to win the Academy Award, period. Only it was for a supporting role in the 1939 film Gone with the Wind. And guess what? She wasn't even allowed to sit at the table with her white cast members. They didn't even invite her to the premiere. So let that sink in. So this documentary dropped tons of gems and knowledge about the historical challenges of being black in this industry, not being afforded as many opportunities, having to work harder than everyone else, and having to take the blame when things don't work out. Now, Poitier gave some sound advice to Denzel Washington. Denzel recalled in an interview how he called and asked for Poitier's advice on a $600,000 offer to play a role as the N-word they couldn't kill. Now, what was the advice? The first 2 to 4 films you do in this business will dictate how you're perceived. So Denzel turned down that role, and 6 months later, he landed the lead role in Cry Freedom. He was nominated for an Oscar. Even renowned director Quentin Tarantino, known for his films like Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, expressed that there's no other explanation for this kind of disparity in the industry except for racism, when actors like Cleavon Little, who starred as the lead in the biggest movie of the year during its time in the 70s, titled Blazing Saddles, he couldn't even land another lead role. Following that film, he had to go back to theater. The film industry eventually saw a drastic change in the 70s when the political climate and rising of black stars produced tons of blaxploitation films, and then a shift from the blaxploitation era of the 70s with a focus on more diverse themes, characters, and filmmakers, while also grappling with the issues of race, ethnicity, and cultural difference in the 80s. Who were your emerging stars in the 80s? Prince, and my all-time favorite actor, Eddie motherfucking Murphy. So if you respect the legends who've paved the way for black actors to be great, hit the subscribe button and let's go over some of the best wisdom and advice that you can have in this industry. So wisdom, advice, or insult. Eddie Murphy, my favorite actor. Number 2 on my Mount Rushmore, the legendary comedian, actor, and producer who became a cultural icon, one of the biggest and highest grossing and most influential entertainers of his time, who helped redefine what black stardom looked like in Hollywood. He shared in the documentary what Sidney Poitier said to him regarding playing the American writer who notably authored Roots in 1976, Alex Haley, in the film Malcolm X. He said to Eddie Murphy, "You are not Denzel and you are not Morgan. You are a breath of fresh air and don't fuck with that." Now, I've heard some pretty off reactions from recent reviews about this piece of advice to Eddie Murphy, which I believe has to be put in proper context in order to truly be appreciated. So the movie Malcolm X was released in 1992. Now, by this time, Washington was earning critical acclaim for powerful dramatic roles, including his Oscar-winning performance in the 1980 film Glory, positioning him as a serious, respected actor in Hollywood. Now, in contrast, Eddie Murphy had become one of the biggest box office stars of the 80s through comedy and action hits like Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America. But by the early 90s, he was facing a lot of mixed reviews with some slight shifts in his career, despite still being a commercial draw. A film like Malcolm X, based on the most powerful yet controversial, although widely celebrated, black political and religious figures of his time, whom I respect dearly, whose reputation was very complex and multifaceted, stemming from his black nationalist and civil rights activism, particularly his advocacy for black empowerment and his infamous militant stance, by any means necessary, and his plight with the Nation of Islam, probably wouldn't have been the film for Eddie Murphy to take on at that time. We had Boomerang and The Distinguished Gentleman released in 92. So it's not that Eddie wouldn't have been successful in portraying the role of Alex Haley. It's simply what Eddie said. Like, there was no clear direction for his career. He became the biggest movie star at such a young age, and his industry elders, they didn't know much of what to do with that at that time. So I can understand Sidney Poitier advocating that he not touch a film like that at that time. That was sound advice, if you ask me. He also went on to say that James Brown advised him to stop cursing.
And whatever James is saying is some real heavy shit to James, because at the end of every sentence, he ended off with, ha!
If you want to be in this business for a long time, you can stop that cursing. Ha!
And bury his $1 million in the woods so the government can't take it.
He meant that shit that he just said, boy.
And look, seeing that Eddie had gone a long way from his stand-up hits, Delirious and Raw, which were hilarious but full of profanity, to classic family movies like Dr. Dolittle, Daddy Daycare, Mulan, Imagine That with Yara Shahidi, a lot of my favorite films, you know what? I won't say another curse word this entire review. So, iconic film lines. Eddie Murphy said that Marlon Brando, regarded one of the greatest cinema actors of the 20th century, quoted this scene as the line that made him a star.
He said, you became a star when you said, I'm your worst nightmare.
I'm your worst nightmare, man.
I'm a with a badge, and that means I've got permission to kick your ass.
I'm a with a badge. That means I got permission to kick your ass whenever I feel like it.
Now comment your favorite Eddie Murphy movie lines, and let's see who the real Eddie Murphy fans are. Now, film advice from Reginald Hudlin. Sometimes the most revolutionary story you can tell is a story about everyday normal black life. He references their hit film, which is my favorite movie, Boomerang, a rom-com starring Eddie Murphy, Halle Berry, Robin Givens, and several other black film stars like Martin Lawrence and David Alan Grier. It was the first black rom-com of its time that made a political statement, jarring several white critics who wondered, like, why aren't there any prominent white actors in leading roles? All right, so 4 points of wisdom to live by from Eddie Murphy. 1, no matter what script you give me, I'm gonna do it like me. 2, I was a disciplined person and was always working. 3, when I was young, success was making lots of money. Money is a small part of that. I know a lot of rich people who are miserable people. 4, what stopped me from going over the edge anytime in life was that I've always been grounded spiritually. Now share in the comments some of the best advice you've received from an OG whom you respect, male or female. Some acting advice from Morgan Freeman. Number 1, being an actor, you want to be thought of as good at what you do. That's primary. The first thing I do when I get on set is try to make everybody understand that this is not a movie star that walked in. I'm just an actor. I'm no different than you. 2, who is acting and who is reading copy. That's huge for actors, okay? 3, some actors are celebrities. They put on different costumes, yes, but different personas? No. Number 4, relax and give it up. Now, but continue that the best actors are the ones who just give. I think that's part of the secret of the whole thing. Now, who is Morgan Freeman?
I'm God.
Morgan Freeman is an iconic American actor known for his deep voice, commanding presence, and wise, often authoritative roles like my favorite Morgan Freeman classic, Lean on Me. With a career spanning decades, he's earned acclaim for performances in films like Driving Miss Daisy, The Shawshank Redemption, $1 Million Baby, for which he won an Oscar, and so many others showing his godlike voice and presence. And he is definitely one of my favorite actors of all time. It didn't happen for you right away. Morgan Freeman shared how his rise to fame didn't come until he was in his 50s. Now, he's been acting since he was about 9 years old. And we've heard this kind of story similar to Samuel L. Jackson, one of the GOATs, one of my favorites, becoming famous in his late 40s. Now, this is a gem for actors such as myself and others who are watching everybody else take off in their careers, landing leading roles in major films, and always thought they'd see themselves there a long time ago. It's a reinvigorating sense of hope that as long as you're alive and you're putting in the work when the opportunity presents itself and creating opportunities for yourself, your journey to stardom in this industry is just as possible as anybody else's. If you're an actor, how long have you been in this industry? And if you're not famous yet, haven't landed that major role, haven't become number 1 on the call sheet, then what motivates you to keep acting? Because somebody needs to hear your wisdom. Drop it in the comments. Now, if you have landed that major role, if you have been number 1 on the call sheet, then drop a word of wisdom in the comments real quick for the actors who want to be like you. Now, let's talk about quality and range. Emmy and Tony Award-winning American actor, producer, director, and playwright Laurence Fishburne, an OG in the game, who starred in films like Apocalypse Now, The Matrix Trilogy, What's Love Got to Do With It, and Man of Steel, he remarked, as Morgan's star ascended, it was so encouraging and it gave you such a sense of hope and confidence to see the quality of work and the range of work that he was doing. Morgan has range. That's essentially what I've been looking for most of my career. So actors, having range is definitely important if you want to be considered one of the greatest of all time. Actors, make sure you can write. This is huge. American rapper, songwriter, actor, film producer, director, and sports owner Ice Cube, one of my top 10 favorite actors, paid homage to John Singleton, remarking, not only is he a filmmaker, but he's a teacher. John told me, make sure you can write because you're not going to find too many boys in the hoods out here for you in Hollywood. So now we're talking about the necessity for well-rounded talent meeting opportunity. Now, who is John Singleton? John Singleton, may Yah rest his soul, was a groundbreaking filmmaker and member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, yo to the good noops, who became the youngest and first black director nominated for an Academy Award for Boys in the Hood 1991. He used his films to spotlight the realities of black life in America, blending powerful storytelling with social commentary, winning the MTV Movie Award for Best New Filmmaker and the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Director. I resonate with Ice Cube as a recording artist who writes music, learning to write films. He compared the difference in the process of writing a song where you're trying to get an idea over in 3 verses, 3 minutes, whereas, here goes the advice, with a movie, you really have to dig deeper into the ideas, dig deeper into the characters, give these people life, and make you care about them. Will Smith, one of my favorite actors, number 3 on my Mount Rushmore, alongside Denzel and Eddie Murphy. Real quick, comment who's your Mount Rushmore of actors? Who makes the cut? Okay, Will Smith's advice on writing is it's critical. Goddamn cats. Ooh, I know y'all heard that. But anyway, it's critical to tell your own stories, and that we got black billionaires now who will put up something for them stories. So what is being number 1 on the call sheet? Actor, comedian, writer, and producer Marlon Wayans, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting, described what it meant to be the guy. The one who gets the best script, best directors, the best producers with the biggest budget and the biggest marketing campaign. Actors, pay attention to what he said. And out of the 10 guys in Hollywood who get that opportunity, maybe only 1 or 2 of those guys are black. He recalled how John Singleton sat him down and reminded him that he's not just going to be an actor out there in Hollywood, but he's going to be a black actor, which obviously meant that came with many challenges, like not having much work at all compared to others during that time. Denzel Washington jokingly but assertively that for him, it was about becoming number 1 on the payroll. He said, I don't remember when I became a star. I'm just doing the best I can with the abilities that I have been given. Trying to do the best work. It really comes down to the work. Daniel Kaluuya remarked when paying homage to Chadwick Boseman, being the lead is a really hard job, but it works because all the characters shine around you. Kevin Hart's advice is in alignment when he said, you can't deny talent and you got to do the work. Now let's recap 5 points of advice by Kevin Hart that an actor can live by. Number 1, talent is talent. Talent is going to get multiple shots. Number 2, he realized at some point that, I'm not that good. I gotta go get better. Number 3, he realized I needed to be around people with nothing, looking for opportunities, wanting opportunities, to see that I'm not the only one. Number 4, I'm doing the effing work. And number 5, when opportunity presents itself, whenever it comes, I promise I'm gonna be ready. For Kevin Hart, the idea of being number 1 on the call sheet means your first opportunity to be an owner, your first opportunity to be a partner, your first opportunity to really look behind the curtain and take advantage of what's back there deep. This review is brought to you by Honey Water Moscato by Kosher Wines, a deliciously smooth and buzzworthy wine at 15% ABV. It's vegan friendly and it's perfect for any occasion. Follow on social media at Kosher Wines and head to the website to get your very own bottle at www.kosherwines.com. Now, comment the movie or show that you were number 1 on the call sheet for, and what did it do for you? Arnold Schwarzenegger had advice for Will Smith regarding being a star. He said, you'll never be a movie star if your movies are only successful in America. Your movies must be successful everywhere on earth. That's definitely a gem for those who are writing, directing films, producing films, and even acting. But yeah, if you are in the business of creating the film before the actors hit the screen, that's definitely a huge one. Will Smith is a globally recognized actor, rapper, and producer who rose to fame with The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and became one of Hollywood's most bankable stars through blockbuster hits like Independence Day, Men in Black, and The Pursuit of Happiness. Known for his charisma and versatility, he won his first Academy Award for Best Actor for King Richard in 2022. That's 20 years after his first nomination. Will says that he's always viewed himself as the general, in reference to being number 1 on the call sheet. After having dinner with Colin Powell, a distinguished American military leader and statesman who made history as the first African American to serve as U.S. National Security Advisor, Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, and Secretary of State, he said it became important to make sure he had some comprehension of what it took to do every single job on the set so he could present himself in the best light to every department for the highest probability of success. Oh my God. Oh my God. And he exemplifies this through his focus, his drive, and his commitment to whatever it is that he's playing, as Laurence Fishburne remarks. Okay. Jamie Foxx, number 4 on my Mount Rushmore, providing consistent commentary throughout the documentary, celebrated Will for his demands of fair treatment in the industry and providing opportunities, bringing him, Jamie Foxx, along as a must-have to portray roles in films like Ali. Now that's similar to how Taye Diggs felt about not wanting to be treated like a quote-unquote black actor, but an actor. Even Dwayne The Rock Johnson, my top 5 favorite actors, looked at Will as a leading man movie star with a global career. Now, Dwayne Johnson offered transparent advice about being yourself. This is a huge one. And you wouldn't expect him to ever have this dilemma. He talked about a point in his career where he entertained going on a diet and shying away from the Rock image that he built from wrestling, when he noticed that his movies were becoming not so profitable. If the other biggest stars were not as huge as him, then maybe he needed to reevaluate his plan to be more like them. And he realized that he was allowing himself to be kicked around during that phase. What was his turning point? Quote, "I'm not them and I'm never gonna be them. I'm me. I'm gonna be me. I realized I need to be myself in Hollywood. Authentically me, 100% me." Oh my God. Oh my God. That's a gem. Everybody needs that. Now, I appreciate his transparency, and I needed that because I've always lived vicariously in my mind through The Rock's image as this godly, powerful man whose physical appearance alone demanded respect when he walked on the scene. His brute strength gave him the power to snatch motherfuckers. Ooh, I said I'm gonna go curse. To snatch fully grown men off of moving vehicles with his non-dominant hand. So, a large part of me as a skinny dude always wanted to be able to play his roles. Now, hold on, don't get me wrong. I got a little tone on me. You know what I'm saying? I got a little something on me. But when do I get to be the guy who can look like that and demand those kind of roles? The answer, in this journey as an artist, you're as great as you work to be. Keenan Ivory Wayans, according to Marlon Wayans during his commentary. Continued, you have to be an undeniable force of nature to make it in this industry, especially if you're black. And a lot of times, we as actors and creatives don't push ourselves hard enough or even see it possible to be as great as the giants we look up to when we become discouraged by our circumstances. And look, you ain't got to be as big as Dwayne The Rock Johnson to be the undeniable force of nature you're destined to be. Now, if you love yourself and appreciate the gems dropped so far, please like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue to elevate the culture. All right, let's go. Now, let's talk about opportunity for the new generation. Director Reginald Hudlin said that the most encouraging thing about today's generation of filmmakers is that they are not scared. They're so entrepreneurial. They build their own production companies. They create vehicles, not just for themselves, but for their colleagues as well. They're doing it at a whole new level. John Boyega said, "There's something special about ownership. We're starting our own production companies. We're collaborating. We're finding IP. We're finding scripts. You got to get used to it because we coming in numbers and we inspiring in numbers." I think about the plethora of young independent filmmakers with projects on Tubi and Amazon Prime. This era of filmmaking is seeing a mass production of films across all genres, making it to the streaming platforms and even into the theaters. It's a proud moment for everybody when the team you met at the film festival is standing on the red carpet at the premiere for the new indie film that's finally ready for the world to see. When you get to see your grandmother's house in the film that you and your friends worked so hard on, playing on mega streaming platforms like Peacock. When your industry friends are sharing that their new film just got a nomination in another film festival, or when a stranger DMs you about how great of a job you did in this movie they saw you in, and now they want to know more about that wine that was in the movie from the product placement opportunity y'all created. This is what I find encouraging about today's filmmaking opportunities. This review is brought to you by Honey Water Moscato by Kosher Wines, a deliciously smooth and buzzworthy wine at 15% ABV. It's vegan friendly and it's perfect for any occasion. Follow on social media at Kosher Wines and head to the website to get your very own bottle at kosherwines.com. Okay, the state of the industry today. Shit, it's never been better. I didn't say it. Morgan Freeman said it. Casting director and producer Reuben Cannon said, "I cannot think of a better time in my experience in the business than to be a black actor today." And listen, it's very possible to live the life of your dreams built on a solid foundation of the opportunities you seize in the industry today. An opportunity to build wealth for your entire family and be an inspiration to your broader communities. Jamie Foxx, for example, he remarked how just about all of his family lives with him on his entire 40 acres, which he got on purpose, referencing the 400 plus years of free labor from black people in America and the broken promise of the 40 acres and a mule. Now, we covered that in a previous video recapping Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance. Check that out. And while I'm happy to exist in a time where the field of opportunity for being an actor is wide open, I can agree with Michael B. Jordan that we made a lot of progress, but we can't pretend like everything is fixed. There's a tremendous amount of work to be done, and it's harder to keep us in the box now. We have to get more people in positions to make an impact. So, what is your position? What role do you play in this industry and in your community? And look, if you just buy tickets and watch the movies and attend the plays, that's cool too. We need that. This documentary, it reminds us that we have a responsibility to create opportunities for greatness just as much as we want to be accepted for opportunities by the major film networks, okay? In the words of Marlon Wayans, I'm not going to wait on somebody to bet on me. I'm not going to wait on Hollywood to tell me what my value or worth is. I know my excellence. And for years now, I've been saying what Daniel Kaluuya said. They might call us a minority. We are not the minority. We are major, and we ain't taking nothing minor. We got to have that mindset in today's time, in every industry, in every field of endeavor. And like Kevin Hart said, I'm doing the fucking work. Excuse my French. Shit. And when we get to be number one on the call sheet at the height of our lives, what next? Dwayne Johnson made it plain. When you get to the top of the mountain, you bring people up and create more mountain. Culture.
So let's be cold and elevate the culture.